the Time Athlete of the Year. They had a nice photo spread for her in black and white. It was Caitlin Clark. And she had a lot of interesting things to say as far as, the Olympics and not being on the Olympic team, basically saying, hey, I don't want to be there to be a mascot or, whatever, that sort of thing. The other interesting thing was that, hey, she talked about the privilege of being a white player in a black league and all of that type of stuff, and how the league has been built off of black women, and also, the perception about, rookie treatment. She touched on a lot of different things, and I felt like she came across really, really well. Like, what struck out the most to you from that interview?
Yeah. For me, my first thought after the interview, and first of all, congratulations to Caitlin Clark. Like, I think this is huge for women's basketball, for her to get that type of notoriety as a 22-year-old woman, and a Time Athlete of the Year, and what she's done to convert college basketball to the WNBA and really bring more attention and viewership and everything else there has been great. What stuck out to me was that all the things that you just mentioned that she said were things that maybe we as a WNBA community wanted her to say during the season, right? There were tons of talks and conversations about her fans maybe not being the nicest or being flat out racist. There were tons of conversations about how she felt about these kind of things, and if she was endorsing her fans being like this because she wasn't saying anything, right? So we can take the narrative whatever way we want because she wasn't saying anything. So after reading these comments, I said, finally, she said it. Like, finally, she let us know. And it's not that I thought that she endorsed any of that, but it was that, hey, she's in the course of a season. She's a rookie. She's handling this part of life for the first time. Maybe she doesn't have the space to handle it with the media. And so I thought that this was a perfect time, no pun intended, for her to really voice her thoughts. It's been clear that if you know the W, it's been built, through Black women. And so it makes sense that someone who is bringing in new voices and new audience understands what happened before in order to understand or try to create a goal of what happens next, right? Like, you just got to understand the past before you move forward. And so I think that was the biggest acknowledgement that she could have gave. I also think her comment about the Olympics was fantastic, because there were a lot of broadcasters who said that same thing. Like, we don't want her on the team just so people watch. This is the Olympics, baby. We're trying to win a gold medal. Matter of fact, I think the 8th straight. We're not bringing people on a roster just for viewerships. And I love that she said that the people that are on the roster deserve to be there. Like, they are the 12 best women that the United States could have offered. And so I think Cece had some time to reflect, take in her season, understand the culture of the league, how much of an influence she really does have on the court, yes, but also in which through interviews and how she uses her platform to, I think, express certain viewpoints. And so I thought it was good overall. I think these sentiments, if you're around the league, I think you knew that she felt this way, but you were just waiting for her to say them. And she finally did.
I think it's interesting as a whole, and I'm not like infantilizing her just because, she's a young woman, but I think anytime we give a 22-year-old a lot of attention, money, expectations, we expect them to mature as we are mature as people, as we are as, late 20-year-olds or 30-year-olds or whatever it was. And we expect them to have, excuse me, like a sense of a worldview, that we do, even without the experience or going through it. And I felt like, I won't say unfair is the word, but I felt like it could have been very overwhelming to say, hey, you got to be the spokesperson for this. And she's like, man, I'm just trying to get my turnovers down. You know what I mean? Like, it was a lot of different things that was going on. And I think if those people, whomever had doubts on her on the floor, I think by the second half of the season, she showed everybody exactly, like Gino Auriemma, everybody else, I want to say Hayton or whatever it was, the doubters, the people who didn't believe that her style of play would translate, the people who thought that she wouldn't be able to adjust to the physicality. I think she was fourth in MVP voting. She was all first team, all W, all that type of stuff. Like, she showed it. So hopefully the conversation will be about, man, she's a great player. She not only fits in with this, she stands out like all the other great players stand out. And hopefully a lot of the toxic conversation that went on this past year, hopefully that's over, right? Or do you still think that the toxic social media conversation will continue?
If I'm going to be real with you, it sounds so sweet right now because we're not in season. But wait till May 15th hits or the draft hits, and then we're talking about who's going to be added to certain teams. I think as soon as the season comes back, then we'll see if her words really resonated with fans and maybe those who weren't aligned with her, I should say. Because I think that's what we'll be waiting on is like, what is there a change? Because, you know, she's now spoken on some of these things and used her platform in this specific way. And again, I totally agree with you. It takes time and space to do that. I don't know if you have the time and space to do that after you competed for a national championship and then a week later you're drafted and then 2 weeks later you're in training camp and then a week later you're playing the best team and you had the toughest 7 games to start the schedule. Like, no one maybe also has time to tell, you know, their fans in the media how to act, which you also shouldn't have to. A 22-year-old should not tell you that you can't be racist, but here we are. So hopefully when the season starts, they remember.
Well, I think one thing that we don't give these women credit for is the men's college basketball season ends in March, April. The draft is in June. The season starts in October. Like, there's a lot of time in between. College football, the season ends in, you know, January. And the draft is in April, and the season starts in, you know, September. Like, there's a lot of time elapsed. In the W, the season ends in March, April. By the next month, you're in the draft. 2 weeks later, you're playing games. Your world is spinning. Like, there is no time to catch your breath, especially when you are equivalent of a cyclone coming in and you have all these new fans injecting themselves into conversations. You know, the toxicity, it was just completely toxic. You know, I felt like it was some gatekeeping going on too, but I understood why it was gatekeeping. But it was just completely toxic, and I think it got out of the way of the basketball